Thanks very much, Chrissy. So Renascor is an Adelaide-based company developing in South Australia one of the world's largest graphite deposits. Our Siviour project is the second largest proven reserve of graphite in the world, the largest graphite reserve outside of Africa. For the last 5 years, we've been developing not only the resource at Siviour, but an environmentally friendly downstream purification technology that allow us to upgrade Siviour graphite into a purified spherical form for direct use in the manufacture of lithium-ion battery anodes. We managed to gain the support as offtake partners of some of the leading anode manufacturers globally, largely because of our location in a low sovereign risk jurisdiction like Australia and the scale and the quality of the Siviour resource, which we believe is going to allow us to become one of the lowest cost producers of a refined graphite product in the world. Quick corporate overview. Renascor trades under the ticker symbol RNU. You can see our share price performance over the past 12 months. We managed to get a bit of a re-rating earlier this year on the back of a number of offtake agreements. We did a capital raising, and recently we announced a fourth offtake agreement with the South Korean conglomerate POSCO, and that's pushed us up again. We're well cashed up. We have over $17 million in the bank at the end of the quarter, and that puts us in a position to complete all the necessary work we're going to need to do to get us to a final investment decision, which we expect to happen at some stage next year. So our plan at Renascor is to have a vertically integrated operation that consists of two operations that work in conjunction. At the mine site, we'll be producing a graphite concentrate in a traditional graphite operation. That graphite concentrate will then be used as feedstock for a downstream manufacturing facility where we'll upgrade that into a purified spherical graphite form. We then sell that on to anode manufacturers. Anode's the other side of the battery, the negative electrode. Anode manufacturers then coat that with a proprietary technology and sell to battery manufacturers then assemble the batteries and sell them to EV manufacturers. So where we sit in the supply chain is we're in the middle. We're producing our primary product is purified spherical graphite, and our customer base is an anode manufacturer. Quick word on the market. Graphite, like many other commodities, is being impacted by what's going on with the uptick in electric vehicles and the resultant increase in demand for lithium-ion batteries. Now, when we look at the anode demand roughly tracks where lithium-ion battery demand goes. Graphite is the key component that goes into the anode. By weight, it's the largest in a lithium-ion battery. Now, if we move one step further upstream towards what we're doing, purified spherical graphite, you can see the demand curve that roughly follows where that anode curve goes. Now, graphite's a bit different than most other commodities because it hasn't yet transitioned into a battery mineral. It's just starting. And we try to illustrate this with the chart here on the bottom that shows the proportion of graphite concentrates that go into lithium-ion battery. Circa 2020, less than a quarter of graphite that's produced at a mine site goes into a lithium-ion battery. It's only by 2030 that graphite becomes primarily a battery mineral. Now, our strategy at Renascor is to use the graphite concentrates we'll be producing at our upstream operation as feedstock for the downstream operation. And this means we'll be moving directly into the lithium-ion battery. We'll be producing purified spherical graphite. The exclusive use for this is in the manufacture of lithium-ion batteries. So we're looking at demand growth curves of roughly 30% compounded per year. So from a demand perspective, this obviously looks quite promising. Supply, our customer base is located in Northeast Asia, and it's dominated by China. China produces 85% of all the lithium-ion battery anodes. They account for 90% of the construction. The other two large jurisdictions are South Korea, who are dominated by POSCO, and Japan. And really, that's it. There are no current even announced plans of any of the top 20 or even top 50 anode producers to migrate their production into Europe and the United States. Now, we expect that to happen, but we want to get into production, and we want to get into production soon. So we're certainly going to cater to that existing market in Northeast Asia. And that market is currently 100% reliant on China for the downstream capacity to produce purified spherical graphite. China accounts for about 2/3 of all the graphite concentrates that are produced globally. And China is actually increasing their rate of production of graphite concentrates, but they're actually importing graphite from Africa and other countries to meet the increasing demand for graphite going into lithium-ion batteries. So our goal is quite simply to produce graphite at amongst the lowest costs of the world outside of China, and we believe based on the quality of the product, we can be the lowest cost producer outside of China. The project itself is located on the Eyre Peninsula of South Australia. The mine will be located outside of the coastal town Arno Bay. They will have an open cut mine and a flotation processing plant to produce a graphite concentrate product. We'll be trucking that material from the mine to Port Adelaide. That's the container carrying port in South Australia, and we'll be upgrading it in a downstream operation along the way. We're going through a site selection survey right now. You can see some of the sites where we'll be doing that. The economics of our project are really based on minimizing the movements of material. We want to take the material from the ground, upgrade it, get it to port, and ship it directly to the customers. This is one of the reasons why we believe we can be one of the lowest cost producers. We're not adding logistics into the mix, we're reducing it. We're not taking material from one continent, bringing it to another, upgrading it, and then shipping it to customer. We're taking it from the mine, upgrading it, getting it to port, and getting it to customer. The other reason we believe we can be a low-cost producer is because of the Siviour resource itself. So Siviour is large, it's very large, it's one massive ore body, but it also has a relatively unique flat-lying orientation, which we try to illustrate with the cross-section here. So this shows Siviour in red, and to give you an idea of what other graphite projects generally look like, we've superimposed 3 other graphite deposits in cross-section in the 2 shades of blue and green. And simply put, graphite tends to occur naturally vertical or subvertically with a series of lenses. Siviour is a big ore body, but it's a big flat ore body with thick intersections near the surface. That translates into a low mining cost. We completed a definitive feasibility study at the end of 2019, and it puts our cost of production of graphite concentrates at amongst the lowest in the world. Probably difficult to see the other companies that are on this cost curve here. They tend to be in China, Mozambique, or Tanzania, but we're not. We're located here in Australia, and because we're in a modern industrial jurisdiction, we believe we're in the right jurisdiction to upgrade that and do the higher value add and produce the downstream product, purified spherical graphite. So we'll be looking to make a 100% Australian-made product, but we believe we're relatively unique in that we'll be able to do that at globally competitive rates. Now, one of the reasons is the chief component cost in the production of that downstream product is the raw material feedstock itself. So it accounts for about 35% of our projected cost of $2,000 US a ton. We believe that puts us competitive with the median price in China, but more importantly, we think it's going to make us the lowest cost producer outside of China. And we try to illustrate that in the histogram here. Our cost of $2,000 per ton US is shown on the left. If we were going to instead buy graphite concentrate at market price rather than rely on our own feedstock, it would cost us about $400 more US per ton. Now, over the life of the mine, if we look at the projected cost in graphite concentrate, that increases to over $1,100 US per ton. So quite simply, we believe we can be the lowest cost producer of this purified spherical graphite product outside of China. The economics really look robust by any measure. We completed a study at the midpoint of last year in producing 28,000 tons of purified spherical graphite. We have a net present value of just under $500 million US. And if anything, since we've completed it, the market only looks more robust. When we completed this in the midpoint of 2020, 28,000 tons really looked like a bit of a stretch goal. Since that time, we've entered into 4 publicly announced non-binding offtake agreements that account for up to 60,000 tons of our production. POSCO alone is looking at taking up to 30,000 tons of our production. So right now, as you could guess, we're looking at expanding it. Because of the scale of the resource, we'll be producing over the life of the mine an average of 105,000 tons of concentrate that we can use as feedstock. So we have ample opportunity to expand this. And if anything, we think there's a real opportunity to make those numbers look even more robust. ESG, we've heard a lot. This is really important in the battery space. Now, one of the advantages we see our project having is our location. For us, environmental compliance, strict environmental compliance, really isn't a choice. It's the law because of where we are. We're in South Australia, but the same would be true for any jurisdiction in Australia. We have amongst the strictest environmental rules in the world. We've gone through over a 4.5-year approval process with the Mines Department of South Australia. We have our first stage approval, our mineral lease. We expect to get the secondary one sometime towards the end of this year, the beginning of the next year. We've developed what we believe is a very environmentally friendly purification technology. The Chinese refiners, about 80% of them use hydrofluoric acid. Hydrofluoric acid is very cheap in China, but it's also very dangerous, especially in terms of getting into the water supply and the cleanup. We've managed to develop a different technology to do this that uses sulfuric acid. We believe this is much more beneficial environmentally. The other thing, it's going to cost a lot less for us to do that here. And then the other advantage we see our own project having from an ESG credential is, again, the location. We're not moving the material significant distance. We're taking the material from the mine, upgrading it, getting it to port, and shipping it directly to our customers. Our offtake strategy is quite simple. We want to sell it to the biggest and the best anode companies in the world. I've told you where they're located. We recently entered into the agreement with POSCO. POSCO is also looking at making an equity investment. We're working through technical due diligence right now and negotiating potential offtake terms. We also have 3 other non-binding offtake agreements. 2 are with Chinese anode manufacturers. The 3rd is with Hanwha, who are a Japanese trading company. We think this will get us access to the 2nd largest market in the world, the biggest market outside of China, which is Japan. And other than these offtake partners, we're also seeing inbound inquiries from other companies. So if anything, since we've produced this, the level of demand just quite simply seems to be outstripping the supply, and we believe we can be the low-cost provider, and thus the provider of choice. A quick word on government support. Our project is the only graphite project on the federal government's critical minerals roadmap, and maybe most importantly, we believe there's a strong chance we're going to get support from federal loan organizations, in particular Export Finance Australia and the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, who've given us in principle support. What's ahead for us? Well, we think there's going to be some major opportunities on the offtake front to convert our existing non-binding into binding. And again, we see more opportunity to bring in other offtake partners as well. We believe we're going to be able to increase our expansion either through a stage 1, larger stage 1 or a stage 2 production. We'll be completing our technical studies and our regulatories and continuing to de-risk it. And then hopefully next year we'll be into due diligence. And the opportunity we really see here is one to become one of, if not the largest producers of purified spherical graphite in the world. Thank you very much.